Thank you. Chair Wyden, Ranking Member Crapo, and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today about tax avoidance by the ultra-rich. After a 3-decade-plus run as a tax lawyer, I recently transitioned into my real passion, well, my work passion, federal tax policy. I currently serve as the Senior Advisor for Tax Policy with the Patriotic Millionaires, a group of wealthy Americans who use their wealth and influence to try and build a more stable, equitable economy that works for everyone. But it was my career helping clients shrink their tax obligations that gave me insight into just how porous our tax law is and informs my perspective here today. All tax attorneys remember Judge Learned Hand's opinion in Gregory versus Helvering from their introductory tax class. It established a bedrock principle of tax law. There is no patriotic duty to pay tax. Taxpayers are free to arrange their affairs so as to minimize their tax obligations. My testimony today pertains to tax avoidance of the type to which Judge Hand referred, and not to criminal tax evasion or civil tax fraud. So my remarks are not intended to impugn the character of rich Americans who engage in such tax avoidance or the advisors who assist them. But I do think Americans are stunned when they learn that some billionaires face a lower effective rate of taxation than they do. Presented with that reality, they feel the tax law is rigged against them. In my experience assisting ultra-wealthy clients, their concern over taxation was limited to how it impacted their wealth. Unlike for most Americans, tax obligations for the ultra-rich don't impact life decisions. Some ultra-rich clients of mine opted out of tax avoidance. It just didn't enhance their quality of life. That's important. Limiting tax avoidance by the ultra-rich won't keep their kid from attending college, delay their retirement, or inconvenience them in any way. They won't even have to sell their yacht to pay their taxes. They will never want for anything. It will simply reduce the excess wealth they accumulate. The ultra-rich avoid tax largely through strategies developed by highly paid experts like me. Last year, your committee heard testimony on one such strategy, buy, borrow, die, where ultra-rich Americans buy investment assets and never sell them. Instead, they borrow against them whenever they need cash. After they die, their inheritors then sell what typically are highly appreciated assets with no income tax consequence. Avoidance strategies like buy, borrow, die result from exploitation by the ultra-rich of design flaws in the tax system, commonly known as loopholes. One type of design flaw is a rule that assigns vastly different tax consequences to minor differences in circumstances. For example, if a taxpayer sells an appreciated asset one day before his death, he must pay tax on the gain he realizes. But if his inheritor sells that same asset shortly after the taxpayer's death, the gain, potentially in the billions of dollars, escapes income taxation. That's the stepped-up basis rule. It's the loophole that enables the buy, borrow, die strategy. In 2013, Bloomberg News reported on an ultra-wealthy family's use of zeroed-out grantor retained annuity trust, or GRATs as we know them, to transfer $7.9 billion of wealth at no estate or gift tax cost. Shortly thereafter, the tax lawyer who developed the zeroed-out GRAT strategy estimated that wealthy Americans had avoided $100 billion or more of estate tax through GRATs. Closing the GRAT loophole is not complicated. Chair Wyden and Senators Warren and Sanders all have introduced bills that would work. Yet the loophole remains open over a decade after becoming widely known. That should alarm Americans because these are just the known loopholes. As a former tax lawyer, I can tell you tax lawyers do not share our more ingenious avoidance strategies. Early in my career, I saw bipartisan efforts successfully address glaring flaws in our tax code. The passive activity loss rules of the 1986 Tax Act, for example, virtually shut down an entrenched tax shelter industry. More successes like that are achievable, but it's Congress and Congress alone that has the power to close these loopholes. My written remarks discuss additional examples of loopholes, the strategies devised to exploit them, and how they could be narrowed or closed. I'm eager to chat with you more about them. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lord. I know we'll have some questions.